better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch is brought to you by Nedbank.
It's 1400 hours. We are very happy to host you on this edition of Nedbank Business Watch. My name is Sifiso Ngumalo. Thank you for joining us.
And I am Nautilus Itolo on the program today as the kingdom continues to, journey towards a digital economy. One thought stands out. Are we preparing our youth not just to consume technology, but to create it, innovate with it, and build businesses and opportunities around it? Under the theme, The Future is Digital, the UNESCO ICT Society is positioning itself at the heart of this conversation. Based at the Gwaliseni campus, this student-led society is now opening the world of ICT to students from all disciplines, from cybersecurity and data science to practical coding and participation in platforms such as the deep learning in Indaba X. These students are proving that the future of tech in Eswatini is already taking shape. But of course, now the question is no longer whether technology will shape our future, but who will lead that transformation? Stay tuned as we engage the UNESCO ICT Society on what it truly means when we say the future is digital. We'll also take you back to a conversation with Nedbank on cybersecurity awareness.
Yeah, and certainly in the topic of taking people back, we do want to take them back to what has been happening during the course of the year. And indeed, with 14 days left before we cap the year of 2025, and as the curtain falls on the year, the economy gives plenty to think about. Well, from the corridors of diplomacy to the kitchen tables of ordinary citizens, the year 2025 has been shaped by decisions that will echo well beyond December. You will remember His Majesty King Mswati III presided over a year of intensified regional engagement, sealing landmark bilateral agreements with Mozambique, from a strategic natural gas deal to expanded air services, among several high-impact projects rolled out over the past 12 months. Closer to home, the cost of governance took center stage. We saw salary adjustments just recently, as well as related pressures have pushed projected government spending up by 8.5% to 32.61 billion in Malangene, and that is according to the Financial Stability Review. And all of that raises important questions about sustainability, about priorities, as well as fiscal balance. On the innovation front, Eswatini took a decisive leap into the digital economy with the launch of the Eswatini payment switch. Led by the Central Bank of Eswatini, the system now allows instant, real-time, 24/7 transfers, and that is across all financial institutions. A structural shift in how money moves through the economy. And then beyond the borders now, rising global tariff tensions continue to reshape trade routes as well as market access. So for Eswatini, the stakes are especially high as the country waits on clarity around the future of AGOA, a decision with serious implications for exports, for jobs, as well of growth. We do want to make sense of all the wins, of all the warnings, as well as the unfinished business, as we will be joined by Sanela Sbia, our economist, to make sense of all these developments.
But first, let's get you up to speed with some of the latest in business after this.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
As per that opening sequence, our business news.
And we begin with this. Mikanga Binze, General Manager Operations at the Eswatini National Provident Fund, is the new board chairperson for the Eswatini Competition Commission. This was announced by the Minister for Commerce, Industry and Trade, Honorable Manqoba Khumalo.
The Minister for Commerce, Industry and Trade, Honorable Manqoba Khumalo, says the selection of the new board was guided by a strong commitment to excellence, ensuring the appointment of individuals with the right expertise to safeguard consumers and steer the Eswatini Competition Commission towards efficient and transparent operations.
Chairman waka Eswatini Competition Commission kusukela lamhla ngubabe Mika Nkabinze lo ne Master of Science ku Leadership and Change Management utabaqala ke kungena ebhodini lokusho ukuthi sibhekile ukuthi efike nemicondvo lemisha kule board futhi ne-energy lensha kule board lapho atawuthatha khona kuba besandile simelane ngiphindze ke ngicela kwethula babe welcome Ngobizwe Nxumalo lo yena ane masters in law and international commercial law bese ke kulandzela Miss Renata Ntshangase une masters in business administration bese ke kuba na Miss Ncedile Dlamini bese kuba na Babe Mandla Njakala is a BTech in chemical engineering umelele ke yena Eswatini Consumer Association.
The chairperson of the board, Mikanga Binde, has assured stakeholders that he will lead with purpose and discipline, diligently implementing the Commission's strategic direction.
Sizokwenza isiqiniseko, Honorable Minister, ukuthi nana nathi as an entity asiwucindezeli lo msebenzi ngendlela yokuthi nase kungene lokho lokufanele ukuthi kusetshenzwe kuphume lezo zinqumo lezifanele ukuthi ziphume bese kuthatha isikhathi kugcine seyibukeka le entity ngokuthi ngiyo lena fika icreate a bottleneck.
The minister reminded the board members that the Commission's performance and effectiveness rests heavily on the decisions they take. Reporting, Nelson Ngamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa Mbabane.
Well, the Minister for Commerce, Industry and Trade, Honorable Manqoba Khumalo, also announced Eswatini Examinations Council Chief Executive Dr. Mandlenkosi Dlamini as the board chairperson of the Small Enterprise Development Company, SEDCO.
The minister has said the task ahead for the board is to significantly strengthen efforts to uplift small-scale businesses across the country and to make vigorous results-driven interventions.
Dr. Dlamini ke une experience lenengi kuba semabhodini akaqali la ka SEDCO futhi ke njengoba sengishito so ufundzile kule minyaka lemithathu yokuqala ukuthi ema challenges alomsebenzi athini siyethemba ukuthi kule term yakhe yesibili utawube asaqhubeka nale strategy labasenta kule term yakhe yokuqala. Dr. Dlamini ke une PhD ku curriculum and instructional design siyamati ke futhi ukuthi usebenta Eswatini Exams Council on his day-to-day job. Siphindze ke siyajabula kuphindze simemetele Market Beauty Mavuso lenaye abuyela ebhodini ithemu yakhe yesibili.
Dr. Mandlenkosi Dlamini says he is fully prepared and committed to implementing the robust strategy aimed at improving the working environment for micro, small and medium enterprises, ensuring sustainable growth and economic inclusion.
I must assure you, Minister, in the presence of our CEO and the DPS, the director as well, we are going to do our best once again. And I've learned a lot as chairperson of SEDCO for the past 3 years. And I can assure you, Minister, we are heading for greater heights.
Honorable Manqoba Khumalo has further challenged the board to rise to the occasion, calling for bold action and unwavering commitment in empowering small-scale businesses, which he described as a critical pillar of Eswatini's economic development. Reporting, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa Mbabane.
All right, that marks the end of our business news. We will go for a net break now, and we'll be back shortly with an interview considering, or rather looking at the different partners, including the Central Bank of Eswatini's FSRA, as well as other entities like the Royal Science and Technology Park that convened for an important development.
We're in conversation with the Neswa ICT Society after this. Stay tuned.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Welcome back. You are still watching Nedbank Business Watch. Onto this now. Last week, different partners, including the Central Bank of Eswatini, Financial Services Regulatory Authority, and the Royal Science and Technology Park, wrapped up the last leg of Indaba X, a program locally designed, or rather, of locally organized events and conferences across Africa that aims to strengthen and build capacity in machine learning and artificial intelligence within individual countries. Today, we speak to the Secretary General of the University of Eswatini, Information Communication and Technology Society, Bongmenzi Makanya, to learn more about the impact that the Indaba X has had, as well as future prospects for the society, of course, aligning with this initiative to promote economic growth. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing today?
Good, Bongmenzi. Perhaps you could just give us a picture of the UNESCO ICT Society. What are we talking about when we talk about the society, and why is it that you do what you do?
It's a community that is created for students to come together and engage in building projects together.
Okay.
Yes, so we want students to collaborate in bringing technical solutions in the ICT sector.
Right.
Yes, and we are doing this because we identified that there is a gap between theoretical learning and the technical application of what we learn in class. So we want the students to come together and practice what they are being taught in class.
Right.
Yes.
And how do you think we can bridge that gap between theory and what the industry really needs when you take a look at the landscape of the technology sector in the country?
I think it's practical. It's just a matter of the industry experts coming together with the academia to find a way to collaborate and say we have this challenge. So how can we mitigate it? And I think through the recent Indaba X, we have been able to participate and engage with students to come and present on their projects, and there's also been a hackathon, so it really gives them the practical experience of what they are being taught in class. It's no longer just a theory in coding and system analysis and design and whatnot.
Yeah.
So yeah, they get to be practical.
Right. I'd like for us to talk deeper about your participation in the Indaba X, but before that, as a society, you have a theme, one that underscores that the future is digital. Break it down for us. What does this mean for a regular young person, a regular student in Eswatini? When you say the future is digital, what does that look like?
I think we've got to understand the landscapes of the country when it comes to technology. So we are still migrating digital as a country. So we are focusing on the digital transformation of Eswatini as a whole. So the theme focuses on the transition we are in. So as to say to the youth, they should be available and engage themselves and look forward to a digital future. Yeah, and moreover, we want the youth to participate in the ICT sector. That is why we came together to say, no, let us forge a way for the youth through the society.
Right. Young people would say, I already have a laptop. I already am well familiar with regards to particular apps. I have a phone. I'm well versed on social media. Isn't that enough tech participation?
I wouldn't say it is much because we all have these gadgets, but when it comes to the back-end development and whatnot in the tech space, we really are not familiar. We just are consumers of tech. We are not producers. So we want the youth to come together and learn skills, fundamental skills like programming, and be aware of cybersecurity threats and all that, because in as much as we want the youth to adopt to these technologies, the adoption comes with the influence of cyberbullying and whatnot. There are a lot of cyber threats, so we want to raise the awareness, and we are also inviting other partners in the sphere to say, let all Emaswati be included in tech. Yes.
You've had the opportunity to participate in the Indaba X, which is actually, impressive. I'll laud you guys for that. But let's talk about the impact of this initiative. What impact has it had on you as a young person in tech, as young talent, or the society as a whole?
I'll start by addressing the individual impact it has had on me. I think it was my first time participating in the Indaba X, and it was a team effort. We were collaborating on a project on the health sector with my friend, and I wouldn't say it is more of about winning. It's not merely about winning. It was a learning experience for us. So I think after the participation, we were never the same as we were before we got to participate. And on that point of standing, I would also encourage other Emaswati to stand up and think creatively and be innovative. And the impact of the event now, I think it gives us the feel of what the industry looks like, because we get to solve real-life problems. And recently we had the hackathon that was focusing on the forecasting system of the central bank. So I think, yeah, it's a great initiative, and Emaswati should gear up and look forward to these things, join up, and yeah, let's work towards a digital future.
Right. Yeah. And given this program, the key themes were, of course, machine learning and artificial intelligence. I want to talk to you as the Secretary General of the UNESCO ICT Society right now, that this level of collaboration, look at how we had RSTP, you had, you got to talk to industry leaders, you had the central bank, these different partners, the collaboration. What does it signal about Eswatini's readiness for an AI-driven economic growth?
This is a very interesting one. I think the fact that there has been corporate leaders coming together at such a level, it really shows that we as a country, we are moving towards what we envision in the technical space. And it means in inclusivity, we are getting there, and we really are going to be a digital country very soon, and I think the future is very prospective and it is promising.
The future is promising indeed. And how do you think, as a society now, you can align your programs and some of your initiatives, some are actually in the pipeline, you know, with the knowledge and exposure that you've gained from the Indaba X?
I think first of all, it is the learning part. We learned how to organize ourselves. Now we can work collaboratively with other partners, and I'm glad you raised that question. We are also planning to have an event similar to what Indaba X is offering, but now we want to focus on the gaps between high school education and tertiary education, and the gap between tertiary education and the industry now. So we are saying we get to tertiary with no fundamental skills. Let's say students from the decentralized local areas, they come here with no practical experiences of using a laptop, for example, you see. So we want to say we want to host our own mini Indaba, which is going to fit into the Indaba X as it progresses. So the high schoolers, they have to come here, get the feel of what we are doing at tertiary. Then the industry experts can also influence them to actually consider the ICT careers. So we can create that ripple effect and have more people pulled into the ICT sector, so that the digital future we are working towards can be successful, because we cannot be preaching about a digital future whereas the nation is not so digitally included in that regard.
Then my last one to you is, from, you know, beyond academic learning, how do you think machine learning and artificial intelligence be practically applied then to solve some of these realities or the challenges that we face on a daily? It's no secret that we do have a really high youth unemployment rate. We're also tackling our climate change, which is actually affecting our agricultural produce. How do you think we can apply these techniques to solve these problems that affect all of us individually?
It's a crucial, because you've now touched on the high youth unemployment rate. I think the main focus would be getting the youth to come together and focus on things like crowdfunding. So because if we work individually, it will be hard to, maybe, let's say we are fundraising for 100 individuals, whereas if we have 4 teams maybe of 10 individuals in that group, so it would be easy to form those small cooperatives and work on that. And the other issue of solving real life problems. The theme for this year's event, I think it was big data analytics for problem solving. So I think we are going to work with experts in all the fields, cutting across from health to agriculture, in all the sectors, to say, let us bring solutions technologically, because ICT cuts throughout all the sectors. So as to say, yeah, we are looking forward to solving all the problems, but it is all a work in progress.
Right, so it's all a work in progress. Right. Bongmenzi, thank you very much for your time. That was Bongmenzi Makanya, who is the Secretary General of the UNISWA ICT Society here in the country, breaking down the impact that the recently hosted or held initiative, that is the Indaba X, has had on them as young talents, as young people in the tech sector. This is Nedbank Business Watch. The show continues after this.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you'll go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Business Watch, we want to look at what this year has been looking like as, of course, it draws to a close now. We are reflecting on some of the key stories that have shaped our economy. His Majesty King Eswatini III signed major bilateral agreements with Mozambique, including a natural gas deal and an air services agreement among several projects launched this year. We saw salary reviews also featured prominently, contributing to government expenditure projected to rise by 8.5% to 32.61 billion emalangeni. That is according to the Financial Stability Review. Well, Eswatini also launched the Eswatini Payment Switch, a national digital infrastructure led by the Central Bank of Eswatini, enabling instant, real-time, 24/7 money transfers across all financial providers. We also examined global tariff wars and their impact on the Kingdom of Eswatini, especially as the country awaits the renewal of AGOA. Economist Sanele Sbia joins us virtually to unpack what this has as implications in our economy. Sanele, perhaps let's just start by, if you were to give us one word to summarize the state of our economy in Eswatini, given all these other projects that I've highlighted, what would that one word be? I know that's a tough one.
Thank you, Mr. Ngumalo, and a good afternoon to the viewers. So given all of this economic diplomacy and the projects that we are seeing, I would just say promising. That would be the word that I would use. It's a year where we're trying to balance things out, but the outlook does look positive and promising. Thank you.
Promising because it's optimistic. It speaks to optimism. It speaks to a bright and beautiful future, and certainly what our economy in Eswatini needs now more than ever. Of course, we've seen major agreements, bilateral agreements. We saw this one that I highlighted, the signing with Mozambique. I think it happened 4 months ago around August. We saw President Daniel Chapo in the Kingdom of Eswatini. The agreement included natural gas, air services, as well as other agreements there. But beyond that signing ceremony, let's speak now to the tangible economic value that this will bring to the Kingdom of Eswatini.
Thank you, Ngumalo. So as you know, that Mozambique has one of the biggest natural gas reserves in the region, and I think also in Africa it rivals quite a number of countries, where we've seen the French energy giant Total investing close to €1 billion just to make sure that we can get that oil, that gas out of the ground and to supply the region and Mozambique as well. So that's a very good initiative for the country through that economic diplomacy to work towards ensuring that we are there and we're able to get our hands on that natural gas, which is something that we desperately need as a country, because, as it were, most of our homes are powered by the grid, by electricity, and most of our businesses are powered by the grid. Yet with natural gas, you can take a bit of that demand off of the grid and shift it towards natural gas in terms of your heating energy, your cooking energy, and that somehow makes our country a bit easier to work with in terms of stabilizing the energy grid. And in terms of some certain things we ask ourselves, but it's mostly on the architecture of the regional economic grouping. But we know that Eswatini is a country that is nestled between Mozambique and South Africa. So it does not, it just always boggles the mind why we are not trading much with Mozambique when they are just at the other end of the country and they have access to this seaport. That diversification in terms of our supply chains and our import and export routes is quite critical as well. So such economic diplomacies are quite crucial, Mr. Ngumaro, and I think we do commend His Majesty's leadership in ensuring that the country is now beginning to forge, those economic relations with Mozambique to ensure that we can improve that bilateral trade and also improve our capabilities as a nation.
On the topic of salary reviews, a very famous topic, particularly towards the end of 2025. And I suppose here there's an uncomfortable truth that I want the both of us to confront. And that is the question around salary reviews have not economically costly, for lack of a better term. So if I were to ask you, did government here buy short-term calm at the cost of long-term stress fiscally?
So that's quite a tricky one, Mr. Ngumalo, because what we usually call for is, salaries that are backed by productivity. But the government did actually, make an undertaking to say they're going to implement those performance reviews every year. That management system to ensure that we do infuse a bit of that productivity into the civil service. But the main question here, Mr. Ngumaro, that we should be asking ourselves is, did we even buy any comfort or we didn't? Because we are now in December, and I think for the first time in history that salaries of civil servants are not paid earlier on, which in itself is a good thing. But what it then signals is the fact that probably government is faced with severe cash flow issues internally within the government coffers. And we've seen already, government, inviting the World Bank and the IMF to support in terms of how we can rationalize and reduce our public sector wage bill, which now stands at around 33% of the total government budget. And that's actually on the high side because it crowds out other initiatives that the government can invest in. And it's one of those issues that one then struggles to balance how you could, on one end, approve such an exorbitant and costly exercise, while on the other end, you acknowledging that our wage bill is very high. And my main worry around that, Mr. Ngumalo, is how are we going to build and cultivate a very robust private sector when the government wage premium is very high? It's one of those documented issues published by the World Bank to say that government employees are paid relatively higher than their private sector counterparts. So right now, if you want the private sector to lead growth, how are you going to ensure that the talent within the private sector is cultivated and stays there, and you grow the sector to a point where you can eventually have people wanting to leave government to come back into the private sector, which would then bring government into some level of a sustainable position. But what we're seeing right now is an opposite of that happening, where we're going to see the public sector continuing to bloat. And right now, people, I can bet you a lot of people are looking for work within the civil service because of the new salary structure, and that puts pressure on the private sector because you then expect even more rigorous negotiations within that sector, and it tends to have an impact on the cost and eventually on the unemployment problem that we are faced with as a country. So what we would then expect ideally for right now is for government to find those sources of growth and to find ways to improve the government revenues so that at least the proportion that is taken by the salaries is, gets a bit lowered a bit. So we're a bit worried about that as economists, and I think the government has actually come out to say that there is a bit of worry around that. It's been the country's longest problem, a huge public service.
Sonela, thank you for your time. We'll continue this conversation on other programs. We have run out of our time for this conversation. A lot of balancing act that has to happen. Let's go for a net break. We'll be back shortly.
Welcome back. You are still watching Nedbank Business Watch. On the program today, with Nedbank, we are discussing fraud awareness. And to break it down for us, I am joined by Smiso Kwebu, who is the Enterprise Risk Manager at Nedbank. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Kwebu. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thanks, Natsila. How are you?
I'm great. So we'll get to it. Fraud, it's often a common term or headlining term. We hear people or read of, incidences whereby people have been arrested for fraud of this much amount of money. Can you perhaps just give us a definition? What is fraud and why is it really so important for clients or just the general person to understand this?
In simple language, Natsila, I will say fraud comprises of three elements. There has to be an intention, and there has to be a wrongful act or criminal act, and then there has to be a financial gain or a financial loss in one party. So if combined, we will just say fraud is a wrongful or a criminal act that will result in a financial gain from one party and a financial loss from the other party. That is as simple as you can explain it. So from a layman perspective, when we look into fraud, we define it in three aspects, where there is pressure, there is rationale, and also there is what we call an opportunity. That is what the fraudsters do. So when we look at opportunity, we are saying a fraudster in a system, let's take for instance in a banking system, he will look at opportunities as to how he can defeat or how he can break through the systems or the processes that have been put in place to deter fraudsters. So he saw an opportunity, perhaps it's weaknesses in controls, and he takes up an opportunity towards that, or there is an incentive that drives the fraudster to say, I am incentivized to act in this way because I want to prove, especially for cyber criminals, I want to prove that they can hack through a system. So they want to prove they've got that incentive that drives them. Or someone could be under a certain pressure that he is facing, whether be it at home, be it at work. If that person feels like there is a certain pressure that he needs to address, then he will find the opportunity to commit fraud. Usually these things are based in a person's lifestyle or choices or spending patterns, or the person is heavily under debt. So they find that's the things that's the motives that drives them to look into opportunities to incentivize themselves or to find pressure in that.
Right. You've just touched on the fraud triangle. So the month of October was actually the Cybersecurity Awareness Month, where also as a broadcaster we decided that, or came to the conclusion that actually the conversations need to go beyond the month of October, which is actually why I'm glad we're here today. Perhaps you can talk to us about why fraud awareness is such a priority for specifically Nedbank.
Fraud is not just a priority for Nedbank North-Zealand. Actually, the month of November, it's International Fraud Awareness Month. Okay. So as we are going to the next week, from the 16th to the 22nd of November, September, it's what we call the International Fraud Awareness Week. So every country, every organization should be out there educating their stakeholders, raising awareness around fraud, raising awareness how can an individual or an entity safeguard its assets against fraudsters.
Now, let's talk about, the common types of fraud that as a bank you often see. Are these, regional, or are they international? Are they local? What goes on there?
With technology, not really everything is advancing each and every day. Common trends that we have noticed, it's social engineering. In our context as a country, looking at the Fakata scams, they use a social engineering technique which is called vishing, that is voice technology, where they will call you, either pretend that you have received money or pretend to be the common one that you are supposed to receive money from the DPM's office, or there's a job opportunity, you need to put in money so that you can secure that job opportunity. So that is the most common one that of late we have seen a rise in the country, the Fakata scams, and fortunately we're working with law enforcement agencies. We have seen a sort of a decline, but we cannot actually rule a rise again, because like I said, these criminals are advancing in terms of technology. You release an app today, they master how it works, they find an opportunity how they can manipulate it or manipulate their victims in them giving them money. We have also seen account takeover scams actually happening, whereby people will use fraudulent identities in taking over an account of someone, pretending to be someone else whom they are not, and we have seen that. And also fraudulent proof of payments. In the last quarter, towards the end of the year, we have seen a rise in fraudulent proof of payments, whereby you go to a shop, you want to acquire certain services or goods, they render you that service, you provide them with a fake proof of payment so that they can give you the goods or provide you with that service that you were looking for. We have seen a rise in bank statement frauds, whereby people, they manipulate bank statements to apply for credit facilities or whatever facility they want to apply for from other entities. They will take a Nedbank statement, go to another institution to prove that they have got funds so that they can secure a loan, or they go to their suppliers to say, open an account for me on credit. I have got backing from my bank that I do have funds in my account. We have also seen invoice fraud, whereby they will produce a fraudulent invoice in order for you to pay up a certain amount if you wanted a certain service. They invoice you. In the invoice, you find that they did not use that entity's bank accounts. They're using their own accounts. When you pay, you will assume that you are paying to that entity that had invoiced you, but when in actual fact the fraudsters have used their own banking details there, and the money gets diverted in that way. Also investment scams, we have seen of late that they target especially pensioners, where they know that this person is going to receive a huge sum of money at a certain period in time. Then they lure him into investing into that investment scam, and you find that person being enticed by the return that he or she will get, then he will be paying that amount, only to find that the investment was never there. So looking into these trends, I would not say it's local. It's all over. Regional, international. We have seen that even in other countries. Fortunately, in Swaziland, if you look at our economy, it then worries. But in other countries, when you look, the global fraud report that was released last year, 2024, where they were talking about over 33 billion in dollars that was lost through fraud, if we combine those regional and national numbers. So it's a concern.
Right.
Yeah.
So a majority of people are, one way or the other, seeking some form of economic upliftment, right? And so when fraudsters see opportunity here, individuals can be quite unsuspecting. So what are some of the red flags that, clients should watch out for to avoid perhaps falling victim to fraud?
One of the things that the fraudsters, they use is creating a certain pressure on you to act on their instruction. It's like their instruction is time-barred. You need to act fast because they do not want you to have that leeway to come back to your senses and think about what action you are going to take. So they sort of pressure you to act fast. And because if you look at the unemployment rate in the country, and you look at the daily living expense that most of our population is living under poverty. So if you get an opportunity to say you can make quick money here, you will actually take it. And at that moment in time, that is what the fraudsters, they will use that pressure or that vulnerability you are at that moment, and they use that. Because I will make an example, Notsile, when the Fakata scams, what they do, they will come to you and say, we have erroneously sent 5,000 Malangen to your account. At that moment, and they will tell you that you do not need to send back the whole 5,000. You can send back 4,500 and keep the 500 as a gesture of goodwill. So in that way, you will be, in a way, be appreciative that the other person is considerate of your needs. At that moment, they take advantage of your vulnerability. So what will happen next? You will find that you didn't even receive those funds. Then they'll start asking you, do you have money in your Momo account? Do you have money in your Mobi wallet? And the moment you say yes, they will say, okay, please send whatever you have at the moment whilst you sort with your bank that you send back the remaining balance. By the time you realize that the SMS that he had sent to you was actually a fake SMS, money will be out of your account. In that way, chances of recovery, they become slim. But with advancement in technology, we are now in a way to say if you are able to report within a certain time period, there are high chances of you recovering that money. But what we have noticed, Notil, is that most customers, once they are scammed, they shy away from reporting because they fear being embarrassed that they fell victim of this. So by the time the person goes to report to the police, you find that it is already too late. The chances of recovery by the time are very, very slim because of the period the person took to report, because he feared being embarrassed that he or she fell victim of the scammers.
Right. Before we get to how people can report, what are some of the measures that are in place by the bank or that can actually, be taken upon by individuals to reduce opportunity for internal or perhaps external fraud? Cases such as your KYC, how effective are these in ensuring that we prevent fraud?
I think for us as a bank, Notsila, one of the things that what we have touched on, the issue of KYC, which is know your customers, that we frequently expect customers to update frequently as per their profiling within the bank. So that helps us to understand the customer, because when we do the analysis, we will understand your spending patterns, we will understand how you receive money, so that whenever, if there are any things that we pick when we are monitoring that are out of the ordinary, then we engage you to say, we are picking up these trends on your account, but this is not what you had registered for when you opened the account. And also, we do have our secured banking channels, both on online banking, and our app is secure. There is limited or absolutely no chance for anyone to hack into your bank account unless you yourself as a customer, you have compromised yourself. Because that is where we see the trends coming from customers compromising themselves, then when they come to report, they will say someone hacked into my banking account, whereas they had compromised themselves. Also, we do have a dedicated and committed team that supports customers from transactional banking up to the stage whereby if you have fallen victim of a fraud, then you can be able to use the internal team to report, and we do investigate. And also we do have our reporting channels whereby if you have been scammed, you can report. Also, utilization of our law enforcement agencies to report such cases, because we work closely with them.
Right. As we conclude, what's word of advice that you can perhaps give to clients to avoid scams such as fraudulent proof of payment, fraud, invoice fraud, or actually investment scams, as you touched on earlier?
I think for me, the key of it all, Notsile, it's vigilance.
Yes.
We need to exercise vigilance. We need not to be taken by surprise. If a scammer will call you to say you have received 5,000, just politely say to the person, let me confirm through my bank. The moment you say you want to confirm through the bank, the moment, because they have got their own script they work on, the moment you say I want to confirm with my bank, it's not part of their script. At that moment, then they will just drop the call on you. You are safe. And the other way we say for customers, if you receive the call, don't rush to take any action. Take your moment, take your time to reflect on what is being said. Think about it if it's actually the truth or not. Through what you need to verify first the message. Is the message authentic? If you do not have verification tools, engage your bank. Engage your banker to say, I have received an SMS purporting that I have received 5,000 Emalangan. Please confirm in my account if indeed I have received so much funds. Proof of payments, we say if you receive a proof of payment as an entity, before you release the goods or before you provide the service, get your bank to confirm that indeed the proof of payment is authentic. If you receive a statement, use your banker to confirm if the statement is authentic, because you don't want to fall victim. All said, not silly. One thing is real. Scammers are out there and they're out there to make money. What does it cause for a Maswati? Maswati needs to be vigilant in these times.
Right. Good. Thank you very much for that very informative discussion we just had. In the days of modern banking, be vigilant. That was Simiso Kwebu, who is the Enterprise Risk Manager at Nedbank. We were discussing fraud awareness this afternoon. Stick around. The show continues right after this. Right, and you've just watched a recap of a conversation on fraud awareness that I had with Simiso Kwebu from the Nedbank, who is actually the Enterprise Risk Manager at Nedbank. It's the festive season. You definitely do want to be safe. Now, moving on with the program, we're going to have an understanding of what is shaping markets today. And in-house economist Sanele Sibia is joining us virtually. Mr. Sibia, glad to have you on the program, still with us again. So what's really just shaping markets today? I understand that the U.S. data, employment data actually came in.
But thank you, Notsilele. Good afternoon to you. Once again, good afternoon to the viewers. So yes, the U.S. employment labor data and also the unemployment figures came in, and they sent a bit of concerns to the markets. In the sense that the jobs added into the market, they were quite high. So the jobs added were much more higher than they expected. value. And then when you're looking right now, however, when you're looking at the unemployment statistics there and the underemployment statistics there are signaling, to be at their all-time lows, at their worst level in 4 years. So now that has actually pulled back the S&P 500 within the U.S. economy, and that's largely due to the fact that we're seeing those numbers coming in, and that's not quite potent for markets, because it means we might go back to even more. We might need more bets on interest rate cuts, and that also now means in terms of demand, we are not going to get the demand that you're looking for. So that's why we're seeing the Standard & Poor's pulling back there. But across the pond in Europe, the FTSE 100 is doing relatively well today, back on the 9,800 mark, largely driven by the fact that we've seen inflation figures come out of the UK, and they are quite positive, Notsile, showing that inflation has dropped to its lowest in over 2 years within the UK economy. So we do expect, the Bank of England tomorrow to cut interest rates, given that inflation reading. And then in South Africa, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange is back on the 113 level, largely driven by the fact that gold is continuing to do relatively well, and the South African economy has been revised upwards in terms of their ratings by international agencies. And I mean, overall, the fundamentals are in place. Load shedding seems to be not an issue this year, and we're expecting the demand to continue to drive the markets within the South African economy. So we're seeing those mixed moves there. And then in terms of commodities, so gold continues to hold steady at above 3,000, at 4,300 in terms of the price. They're largely driven by the fact that the dollar is weakening, and as we expect more interest rate cuts in the US, so it makes gold a bit more lucrative in terms of what the investors would want to have. And then in terms of Brent crude oil, the Russia-Ukraine talks, they are actually cushioning and lowering the price of Brent crude oil. So we're back on that $60 per barrel type of level, and we do expect that level to hold as we get more insights in terms of what's going to happen in terms of those peace talks, and also when you're looking at what we are doing in terms of those those numbers that are coming through from the US labor market data. And then in terms of our Lilangeni, the dollar exchange rate, because gold continues to glitter, we're staying on that 1673 region against the dollar, and we're staying against that 19 Emalangeni region against the euro, and relatively strong as well against the Japanese yen, largely driven by the fact that gold continues to sparkle very well and supporting the South African economy. Also because of what we're seeing with AI, it continues to drive, the markets up in terms of the silver. Silver is actually at its all-time high, and that is supporting the local economy. Thank you, Notsile.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spear, for your insights. That was in-house economist Anele Sibia filling us in on today's trade. Otherwise, Nedbank Business Watch is signing out for 2025. We're taking a bow until next year. Happy holidays.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.